Good morning. Today we take you inside a courtroom drama that has become the talk of the nation, a case that has sparked heated debates in living rooms, workplaces, and online forums across the country. Few true crime cases have captured the public's imagination quite like the Karen Read trial. It's a story that has all the elements of a modern tragedy: love, betrayal, and a mysterious death that has left an entire community searching for answers. From the very first day, the courthouse has been surrounded by a media frenzy, with reporters and camera crews vying for every detail, while people across the country tune in to live coverage, eager to catch the latest twist. At the heart of this gripping case is Karen Read, a former financial analyst whose life was turned upside down when she became the prime suspect in the death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. O'Keefe, a respected Boston police officer, was found dead under suspicious circumstances, and the relationship between the two, once filled with promise, became the focus of intense scrutiny. What began as a seemingly ordinary romance soon spiraled into a high-stakes murder trial. Prosecutors allege that Read is responsible for O'Keefe's death, painting a picture of jealousy and rage, but the defense has mounted a fierce counter-narrative, suggesting that Read is being framed and that a police cover-up is at play. The courtroom has become a battleground, with each side presenting evidence, cross-examining witnesses, and trying to sway the jury. Outside the courthouse, the public is deeply divided. Supporters of Karen Read hold rallies, demanding justice and transparency, while others insist that the evidence against her is overwhelming. Social media is ablaze with theories, speculation, and heated arguments as people try to make sense of the conflicting stories. The case has become a lightning rod for broader conversations about justice, accountability, and the power of institutions. The trial has also raised difficult questions about trust in law enforcement and the integrity of the justice system. As the judge presides over the proceedings, every decision is scrutinized, and every reaction in the courtroom is analyzed for hidden meaning. The stakes could not be higher, not just for Karen Read, but for everyone who believes in the promise of a fair trial. Now, as the trial nears its dramatic conclusion, the jury faces an enormous responsibility. They must sift through a mountain of evidence, weigh the credibility of witnesses, and ultimately decide whether Karen Read is guilty or innocent. Their verdict will not only determine her fate, but will also send a powerful message about justice in America. In the end, the verdict will be more than just a legal decision. It will be a defining moment for everyone involved, a test of truth, and a reflection of the values that shape our society. The tragedy began quietly, as so many do, beneath a heavy blanket of snow that muffled the world outside. It was the kind of January night in Massachusetts when the cold seeps into your bones, and the streets are deserted except for the occasional car headlights glinting off icy drifts. On this particular night in 2022, the town of Canton was still. The only sounds the crunch of boots on snow and the distant hum of a late-night gathering. Karen Read and John O'Keefe, both familiar faces in the local law enforcement community, arrived at an after-party hosted by a fellow officer. Inside, laughter and conversation filled the warm air, a stark contrast to the frigid darkness outside. The gathering was meant to be a celebration, a chance for friends and colleagues to unwind after a long week. But as the night wore on, something went terribly wrong. In the early hours, O'Keefe was discovered lying motionless in the snow, just steps from the house where the party had taken place. The scene was chaotic, flashing police lights, urgent voices, and the bitter cold biting at everyone present. Prosecutors alleged that a heated argument between Read and O'Keefe escalated, leading to a tragic sequence of events. According to their account, Read, impaired by alcohol, struck O'Keefe with her SUV in a moment of anger, then drove away, leaving him exposed to the deadly cold. The charges against her are grave: second-degree murder, a crime that carries the weight of intent and consequence; manslaughter while operating under the influence, suggesting a reckless disregard for life; and leaving the scene of an accident, a decision that, if true, sealed O'Keefe's fate in the freezing night. When authorities arrived, Read was there, visibly distraught, her emotions raw and on display for all to see. Some saw genuine shock and heartbreak, others the telltale signs of guilt. From that moment, every word, every tear, every gesture has been dissected by investigators, the media, and the public alike. The central question remains: was Karen Read's anguish the result of a terrible mistake, or the horror of witnessing a tragedy she had no part in causing? The answer is far from clear, and the stakes could not be higher for everyone involved. As the trial unfolds, the mystery only deepens, drawing in a community desperate for answers and justice on that fateful snowy morning. The prosecution's case is meticulously constructed, relying on three pillars: motive, opportunity, and a web of physical evidence. From the outset, the prosecution paints a picture of a relationship that was not only troubled, but teetering on the edge of disaster. They argue that the events leading up to that fateful night were shaped by months of escalating tension, jealousy, and unresolved conflict between Reed and O'Keefe. According to prosecutors, Reed and O'Keefe's relationship was marked by volatility and frequent arguments, with friends and family often witnessing their heated disputes. The prosecution contends that this emotional instability set the stage for a tragic confrontation, one that would ultimately end in violence and loss. Central to their case is the physical evidence: broken red taillight fragments from Reed's SUV, discovered near O'Keefe's body. These fragments, the prosecution claims, are not just random debris. They are a direct link between Reed's vehicle and the scene of O'Keefe's death, suggesting a collision that was anything but accidental. Forensic analysis further bolsters their argument, with experts testifying that the injuries sustained by O'Keefe are consistent with being struck by a vehicle. Witnesses take the stand to recount moments when Reed allegedly confessed to her involvement, adding a layer of personal admission to the prosecution's narrative. The prosecution also introduces a series of text messages exchanged between Reed and O'Keefe, as well as with others. These messages, they argue, reveal a persistent pattern of conflict, resentment, and emotional turmoil, further evidence of a relationship in crisis. In their closing arguments, the prosecution dismisses any suggestion of a conspiracy or cover-up. They insist that the evidence, when viewed as a whole, points to a straightforward and heartbreaking conclusion. Karen Reed, under the influence of alcohol and driven by anger, struck O'Keefe with her Lexus and left him outside in the freezing cold, where he would not survive. For the prosecution, there is no elaborate plot or hidden agenda, just a series of impulsive, devastating choices that led to the loss of a life and the shattering of two families. Now, the responsibility falls to the jury. They must weigh the evidence, the testimonies, and the emotional weight of the case to determine if the prosecution's narrative truly holds up under scrutiny. The prosecution's story is clear and direct: Karen Reed, her Lexus, and a single irreversible decision that changed everything. The jury's verdict will decide if this tragic account is, in fact, the truth. The defense offers a radically different story. They claim Reed is the victim of a frame-up, orchestrated by law enforcement to protect the real killer. According to the defense, O'Keefe was beaten inside the house, not struck by a car, and his body was staged outside. They allege evidence was planted and the investigation corrupted to implicate Reed. The defense points to inconsistencies in the timeline, witness statements, and the handling of physical evidence. Their goal: create reasonable doubt by exposing flaws and suggesting a cover-up. The jury is asked to look past the surface and consider a far more sinister possibility. Expert witnesses have become the trial's battleground. Both sides called specialists in accident reconstruction and forensic pathology to support their narratives. The defense's experts argued O'Keefe's injuries and the SUV damage didn't match a vehicle strike, suggesting instead a fall or even a dog attack. The prosecution's experts countered, insisting the evidence fits a hit-and-run. The judge limited speculative testimony, keeping the focus on established facts. The jury must weigh conflicting expert opinions and decide which science is more credible. The verdict may hinge on which reconstruction they believe. In this trial, science is as contested as motive. This is Karen Reed's second trial. The first ended in a mistrial after a deadlocked jury. The hung jury showed how divisive the case is. Neither side could convince everyone. The mistrial energized Reed's supporters and forced both legal teams to sharpen their strategies. Now, both sides are more focused and aggressive, determined to avoid another deadlock. The specter of a second mistrial looms, raising the stakes for all involved. The jury's ability to reach a verdict is under intense scrutiny. The prior mistrial is a constant reminder. In this case, certainty is elusive. The nation waits to see if this jury can break the deadlock. The trial has been marked by dramatic legal maneuvers and pivotal rulings. Most notably, the prosecution chose not to call rebuttal witnesses, signaling confidence or risk in their case. The defense's motion for mistrial over evidence handling was denied, but the judge issued corrective instructions to the jury. Judge Canone has tightly managed the proceedings, limiting speculative testimony and keeping the trial on track. Her rulings have shaped what the jury hears and how the case unfolds. The courtroom drama has been as much about legal strategy as the facts themselves. Every decision has influenced the path to the verdict. The trial has reached its final phase, jury instructions and closing arguments. In a charge conference, attorneys and the judge finalize the legal guidelines the jury must follow. These instructions define the elements of each charge and set the framework for deliberation. Closing arguments are the last chance for each side to sway the jury. The prosecution will summarize evidence and urge conviction, while the defense will highlight doubt and alleged corruption. The defense doesn't have to prove a conspiracy, just enough doubt to acquit. After closing arguments, the jury will deliberate, holding Karen Read's fate in their hands. The nation braces for the outcome. The Karen Read trial is more than a crime story. It's a reflection of our anxieties about justice and truth. For Read, a guilty verdict means life in prison. For O'Keefe's family, it's about justice for a lost loved one. The outcome will shape public trust in law enforcement and the courts. An acquittal could fuel belief in a police cover-up. A conviction could reaffirm faith in the system. The trial's drama, legal battles, and human stakes have captivated the nation. As the jury prepares to decide, we're left to ponder what justice really means. The verdict will echo far beyond the courtroom. A nation waits breathless for the final word.